All right, what is going on, Laker fans? Thank you very much for hanging out, for tuning in here on this Friday, July 5th. Very excited to talk Lakers basketball, and of course to have a good buddy of mine on, one of the best in the business of covering Los Angeles Lakers basketball, Trevor Lane in the house here.
Hey, thanks, Alan. Happy to be on. I wish the Lakers had some more stuff going on, but
There's nothing.
happy to come on here. We'll talk about the lack of stuff going on and why. What is happening with this team?
It's so funny, man. And I know you and I were joking around before we came on, and I'm like, I just find it fascinating that I don't know how many videos I've done. God knows how many videos you've done, and basically everyone has been some form of disappointment. It's like, yeah, we have some videos of this could happen or that could happen, or there's these rumors, rumors. But when the dust settles so far this offseason for the Lakers, it's been disappointing so far. So let me just plug in a couple things here. If you're hanging out with us, obviously this is a recorded show today. Trevor and I are going to spend a lot of time talking Lakers basketball. I've got a couple NBA questions for Trevor as well, kind of looking around the league. If you guys don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to close in on 25,000 subscribers here on the channel. We'll greatly appreciate that. And of course, I'll leave a link of where you could find Trevor Lane. He's all over everything and killing it for Lakers Nation as well. Trevor, let's start with this. Let's start with I know that you probably have your thought process. Now, you're kind of in a unique position because you're not only a fan, but you are somebody that covers the team. And I'm kind of the same way, right? Grew up a Laker fan. And
Mm-hmm.
it's tough to sometimes put the fandom to the side and just try to kind of put the analysis on the Lakers without kind of having emotion come up. How would you sum up this Lakers offseason as we sit here on July 5th, almost a week into free agency? All the different storylines that came. Braun saying he'll potentially will take less money if the Lakers could find the right person. All these different names that have been rumored around the Lakers. How do you sum up the offseason so far?
Yeah, I think it's been underwhelming. I think there was, and especially given the context of what we found out about LeBron, had it not become public that LeBron was willing to take less money in order to free up a mid-level exception for the Lakers, and that they could have gone out there and gotten somebody, had they convinced somebody to probably take less than market value to join the Lakers, had they been able to keep all of that quiet, it would still be frustrating that here we are and they haven't made any significant moves. They essentially have the same team coming back as last season. That would still be frustrating, but I don't think the frustration would be quite as high if we didn't know that, hey, they had this opportunity and then they weren't able to take advantage of it. That added context definitely sours the mood that much further. So, we were riding high after Dalton Connect fell. I mean, that was I think a big get with the 17th pick. Bronny winds up sitting there at 55, regardless of how you feel about him. LeBron is staying. There's a lot of positive things, but overall, I don't think anybody wanted to see the same team be brought back and hear that they tried on a few guys and couldn't get it done. I don't think that's really where you want to be here if you're the Lakers. So underwhelming, I think, is really the way to describe this.
Trev, is that you think what makes it worse is this wasn't the Lakers' game plan? That let me kind of, if they had come out before free agency started, I'm just speaking a hypothetical here, not that much different from last year, where if they had said, guys, we're not crazy about the market, and we also really like our team. We just want Vando to be healthy and Gabe Vincent to be healthy, and we feel like we want to start the season off with this team. And then if we need to make some tweaks during the season, then we'll make it. Do you think if the setup was like that before the offseason, rather than everybody keeps playing the clip of Pelinka at the trade deadline last year saying, well, wait till I have 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly the Lakers have been rumored around a number of players. Do you think that's what makes it more disappointing, or that's what makes it more frustrating is this wasn't the Lakers' initial game plan and this is where they are?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the expectations and managing those expectations. It's the same reason why when we see an injury report come out and its player will be reevaluated in a month. If that player comes back in 6 weeks, everybody is disappointed. If you if you say, well, we think maybe he'll be back in a month, so let's say he's going to be back in 2 months or something like that, and then he comes back in 6 weeks, everybody is excited because he really came back early based on what the expectations were. It's managing those expectations. Expectations were high that they were going to make some kind of move from everything they've said, and still, and I think they still might. I think they still might make some moves, but here we sit, and then again, as you said, this wasn't their plan A. This wasn't what they were hoping for. They took some swings and misses, including the Dan Hurley situation. So when we look at what's happened in the last few months in Lakers fandom, you get bounced in the first round. You try for Dan Hurley. He turns you down. That doesn't feel great. You get to the draft and you get this little spike of excitement. Oh, hey, Dalton Knecht fell and we took him, Cam Whitmore fell last year. We didn't take him, but this year the guy fell and we actually took him. Great, right? A little positivity, but then we went after Clay and we didn't get him. We didn't. Whatever happened with Valanciunas, he went for below mid-level exception money. Didn't make that happen. The trade front hasn't bared anything out just yet. Everybody's asking for too much, and meanwhile, everybody around you is making moves. The Warriors lost Clay. They made a bunch of moves. They might be better now without Clay. The Clippers lost Paul George. They've made moves. The Thunder made big moves. They got Isaiah Hartenstein. They got our old friend Alex Caruso. Teams, especially in the West, are making moves. So all of that adds to this kind of just, I don't know, tidal wave of negativity that is right now around the team. And it's all about the expectations that were there. Had the team done well last season and they said from the get-go, hey, we're probably not going to be doing anything dramatic. We're just going to run it back, instead of the putting out there the expectation that they'd be making some type of significant change, then the sentiment is probably very different today.
Yeah, I think that's the best description right there, is the expectation, like you said, right? It's if you tell me something, even if I wasn't thinking of it before, you now got me thinking that way. And I'm always, I think in our field and in our world, one of the best lines that I think you could ever take in life is under promise, over deliver.
Yep.
And I felt like Rob Pelinka over promised and has under delivered. And like you said, it's July 5th, so it's not like we're in October 15th and preseason already started. There's still time to get stuff done, but I think what is just so clear and apparent is every plan A they've had has pretty much across the board has not worked. By the way, I could go to the assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if those guys were plan A's, but I know there were some names out there. It was like, nope, that guy didn't take the Lakers job. We can go into, like we mentioned, free agency. If their plan A was this player, and even if those reports were correct, and I have no reason to think that they weren't, to think that they tried getting Klay Thompson on a 4-year, $80 million deal, even the deals they were trying to get, that seemed absurd, didn't even go their way. Granted, I don't think they were in a position to do that anyways. But the expectation, I think, is a great way to put it. I'm going to move on to another point here because I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. When a report comes out that says, yeah, that coach doesn't want to be your head coach. When a report comes out and says that assistant coach doesn't want to be your assistant coach. When a report comes out is that player, I think the last one I saw it was Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield basically was picking between the Warriors, the Lakers, and I think it was the Detroit Pistons, and thought he had a better chance, and it was a call from Steve Kerr that convinced him, I'm going to go to the Golden State Warriors. I'm curious to get your thoughts right now. What do you think is the perception right now of the Lakers? And I'm curious if some of that perception is leading. Sometimes momentum can go your way, momentum can go against you. And right now it feels like the momentum is going against the Lakers.
Yeah, I think there's a general perception around the NBA. You look at other fan bases, you look at the kind of the general conversation. It's that the Lakers have lost a little bit of their shine. Now, I would counter that if you look at what's gone on, you look at the roster right now, this was the roster we were excited about last summer. So it's pretty much the same, minus Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie, who came along later, and you added in Dalton Knecht and you added in Bronny James. Otherwise, it's the same team. And we were really excited and high on this group last summer. What's changed? Well, again, that perception, and we saw this team fall short during this past season. So I think it swung a little bit too far, where we're probably a little too negative on this group. But nonetheless, it's not a good look for your club when you're constantly swinging and missing, especially when it's the Lakers, right? You're supposed, the expectation, talk about expectations, the expectation is that they're going to get the stars, that they're going to get people wanting to come and play for them. And so missing on these guys, whether it be assistant coaches, head coaches, players, whatever, it's always going to be seen as sort of an indictment of what the Lakers are as a franchise. Do they still have that draw? Those questions are going to start getting asked, and that's not a place that the Lakers want to be in. They want to be in the place where they're the premier destination, and so having people turn them down, it's not great. It's not great. It's not ideal. As always, the solution is you win on the floor. I mean, obviously they can't do this till October, but win on the floor, all this stuff goes away. But for the time being, the Lakers have been kind of getting beat up this offseason.
What's how much of it is a fair perception? I think what you just said about, because I think at any moment that perception can change. Let me give you an example, and I know this is a little bit of an extreme one, but Lakers had a perception for a while when it was Jim Buss and it was Mitch Kupchak, and it's like, hey, I don't know what direction the Lakers are going. Obviously, they were going to youth movement. LeBron decided he wanted to come be a Los Angeles Laker. That perception changed overnight. Now it's LeBron James. It's one of the most, iconic, powerful figures you can possibly have. But then, okay, now it's Anthony Davis, and then it's okay, guys like Rajon Rondo. The perception obviously started changing. I'm curious to know. I don't even know if it's finding a solution, but why do you think the perception is what it is? Why do you think, and even if it's that perception is over exaggerated a little bit, why do you think the perception is what it is?
I think it's, you've got LeBron, you've got Anthony Davis. There's going to be a lot of attention on the Lakers. There's going to be a lot of, they should be winning with this group. There's a lot of that expectation from them. And so the perception is what it is because they're not winning. I mean, if this was, they got bounced in the first round. Now, I still think they were, part of the issue here is the context, the conference that they're in. I mean, part of the problem here is you're in the West. They won 47 games last year. 47 games. Like, typically that is not a play-in team. And so people will look at them and they'll stack up all these negatives against the Lakers. They'll say, "Oh, it's a play-in team. LeBron's turning 40. They're not very good. This team's barely above 500 and all that." No, 47 wins is typically not a play-in team, but in the context of this modern Western Conference, that's what gets you to the play-in. That's how difficult the West is right now. So when we look at the overall quality of the team, I do think it's being underrated because of that, because they lost in the first round. I think they got a bad matchup. I do think had they been matched up with the Thunder, who have gotten better, but I think had they been matched up with the Thunder, they had a really good shot of moving on, at least getting to the second round. Instead, they draw the Nuggets in the first round. That was a terrible matchup, and they wind up going home. So that's part of it. And then you add in the fact that they have this kind of stink of being a play-in team around them. People don't want to hear, oh, they were also in an extremely difficult Western Conference, and that's part of why they were in the play-in. So I do think this team is a little bit better than what the general consensus is right now. But I also won't say that they're a contender. And the expectation is when you have LeBron, when you have Anthony Davis, you need to be a contender. You need to be winning championships. And LeBron over the years has beaten a lot of people. The Lakers over the years have beaten a lot of people. And so when you are not winning, or you're falling short anyway of expectations, you're not a championship contender, there's going to be people that are more than happy to take that opportunity to dunk on you.
All right, our guest right now, of course, Trevor Lane, the Lakers Nation. Hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far here on Hoops Talk. Just a quick reminder here, if you don't mind subscribing to the channel, we'll greatly appreciate that as we try to close in on 25,000 subscribers. Trev, I think it's a good explanation. I think you could look at it two ways. I think you could say Lakers got a bad draw in the first round because it was Denver again. But I think the other way you can look at it is, maybe it is a good thing that they got that draw, because the year prior, you got some advantageous matchups and you got to the Western Conference Finals. but I don't think you are good enough to actually cash it in and win an NBA championship. And whether you're out in the first round or you're out in the Western Conference Finals, I think for the Lakers, the Western Conference Finals run was such a surprise. I don't think anybody really thought that that was going to happen, but I think it was much easier than to say, well, let's just run it back. And I think this year, why the Lakers have been so aggressive to try to find a way to, change up the rosters, because they know, look, the West is what it is. Other teams are getting better. And LeBron is going to be 40 and, everything else that you want to add to it. So I wonder if being out again this time in the first round against Denver could be advantageous, because they just know if the goal is to win an NBA championship, that roster is just not good enough to go win an NBA championship. However, I'm curious to get your thoughts. Here's the reality with that team. They did win 47 games. And we are making it sound like they won 35 games. They didn't. They won 47. And the year prior, if you had won 47 games, I think you're top 4, top 5 in the Western Conference. That record would have been good enough, but that wasn't the case last year. If this is the roster that the Lakers go into next season with, into a preseason with in October and into training camp, how much better can this roster just get from the current guys that they have? A little bit better health, a better coach in JJ Redick. I'm not telling you he's going to be a better coach, but if he's a better coach and can put guys in kind of better predicaments from within, how much better do you think the team can get?
I
do you think
don't.
It's maxed out? Or do you think it's maxed out?
I don't want to be overly pessimistic, but I'm going to say not very. And the reason for that is not that I don't think we can see organic growth. I do think JJ Redick coming in, is he going to be better than Darvin Ham? I know everybody looks at Darvin Ham and says, well, anything has to be better than Darvin, right? That's kind of where we're at. But we have to remember JJ Redick's a first-time head coach. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be a learning curve. That's going to take some time. He's not going to come in right away and have solutions for every single issue that plagued the team. And if he does, great. Fantastic. I would love that. But realistically, he's probably going to need some time in order to get his legs under him. And then you've got guys, younger players like Max Christie, who now has a new contract. He's going to get a bigger role with the team. Can he help them move forward? I think his skill set is a great fit. We have to remember he's essentially replacing Taurean Prince, who did not have a bad season, especially when he came off the bench. But are you going to get significantly better there? Maybe a little bit if Max is able to hit the level that the Lakers think that he's going to. And then you look at Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt. Both guys essentially had lost seasons in terms of injuries really hurt them. So you get those guys healthy. Okay. And then you start talking yourself into, you know what? Max Christie, JJ Redick, Vando and Vincent healthy. Let's go. This team's going to be better. Except the problem is, Anthony Davis played 76 games, as I recall, last season. LeBron played like 71. Yep. That's unlikely to happen again, especially both are playing for Team USA this summer. So my fear is that if we get relative health from guys like Vanderbilt and Vincent, you get organic growth from a guy like Max Christie. JJ Redick's able to make an impact. How much of that ends up just being a net neutral, because you also see LeBron and Anthony Davis play less games over the course of the season than they did last year. So that's where I ultimately landed, why I think that as presently constructed, even if you get health from those guys, you probably wind up somewhere around where you were last season, because I'm not expecting LeBron and AD to match their games played from last year.
By the way, I think that's because I could make a case, but I think your case is stronger. I can make a case that, no, the team can get a little bit better. There is something about, remember Rui, right as the season ended, he's like, we just need to bring the team back. Like, we need to keep working on the current team. You might get a little bit of a bump, but your points about LeBron and Anthony Davis honestly just ends the whole argument, because I do agree with you. If I said, Trev, $100, are both of those guys going to play over 70 games again, or are they not? I know where you're going to probably put your money, and I know where I'm going to probably put my money. It's just that was just found money, and it was great that it happened, but I think it's going to be tough for it to happen again. Okay, so with that being said, I'm curious to get your thoughts, because I do think Rob Pelinka is being dragged through the mud so far this offseason. I think every Laker fan is frustrated or disappointed of the situation. I think you and I talked about it already about you set a proper expectation and you always want to under promise and over deliver. And I felt like he over promised and now is under delivering. If I made a case, when I do my radio show in the morning, I do it with Travis Rogers and I was telling Trav, I was like, Trav, they got to make a move. You cannot come back with the same team. It's just, you can't do it. And I'm going to give him some credit because the point that he said was, well, what if there just is not a good move and a smart move out there for Rob Pelinka to make? And we'll give an example. When the Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook, everybody knew pretty early on, like, this is not going to work and this is a catastrophe. And remember going into the offseason, all the pressure around Rob Pelinka, go make a move, go make a move, go make a move. He didn't make a move. He waited till the trade deadline. And I think a lot of people thought, wow, Rob did pretty good. What he was able to get, if it was one poker chip, and then he ended up with, you got one $10 chip or you got five $2 chips. And that's basically what he ended up with. And then now he's got a little bit more room to negotiate. What's the balance of being aggressive and knowing that there's a lot of pressure to try to make a move? And what's the balance of being disciplined and trying to be smart and saying, I refuse to give up my final 2 first-rounders for somebody that I don't feel like is going to take us to the upper echelon of the NBA?
Yeah, I think that striking that balance is always difficult. And for Rob specifically, you're in a situation where if LeBron was 35 even, there wouldn't be quite as much pressure. There would still be, the expectation would be you're going to make moves, you're going to try to win, but the clock is ticking with LeBron. And so that's where some of the urgency has got to come from. You've got to find a way to improve the roster and do it as soon as possible. Now, he has been rewarded for being patient in the past. We look at, although, they could have traded 2 firsts and gotten Miles Turner and Buddy Hield back then. Instead, they waited into the season. They got D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley. And Miles Turner would probably look pretty good right now. He's a good player. Not to say that what they got was bad. It certainly wasn't. But maybe you didn't gain that much by actually waiting rather than just doing that deal. Except you did sacrifice one less first-round pick to do it, which is certainly not nothing. But I think that ultimately, if where we land a month from now, and hopefully it doesn't take a month, but a month from now, if we're in a spot where Rob waited and the Lakers made a great trade, a trade like the D'Angelo Russell trade, where people go, whoa, they got that done? Nobody expected them to be able to get that. Everybody said they were going to have to give up 2 firsts to get that kind of return. Wow, what a great job. If that's the spot we're in, then I think all is going to be forgiven. Right now, though, we don't know. We don't know if we're going to be in that spot. We don't know if they're just going to wind up running back the same team. I think that's what people don't want to see, and that's what people are concerned about, is they don't want the same team to be run back. They want to see Rob Pelinka find success. And some of the flack that he's getting, again, it will dissipate if he finds that move, but we've also seen him take very public swings and the organization take very public swings at certain players, at coaches, and not get them. And so that's part of the job too, is you have to be able to close. You have to be able to bring in these guys, bring in these players, add the talent. And so missing on that is part of this as well, part of the negativity that's around Rob Pelinka right now. Now we're hoping that he can find a way to pull off a trade that is going to sort of pacify everybody and put this team on the next level. But so I do think he's got to be aggressive. I think that you can't be looking for the perfect trade. Like, oh my gosh, clearly we win this deal by a mile. I do think they need to do something, but at the same time, they can't get fleeced. And for some of these guys, I think part of the problem for the Lakers, for some of these deals that we're talking about, if it's like Cam Johnson and you have to give up Rui Hachimura just to match salaries to get him, well, is the difference between Rui Hachimura and Cam Johnson as a basketball player 2 firsts? Is it a first? Like, where does that land? And right now, a lot of teams are saying, oh, well, no, if you guys are making a move, we want both your firsts. We want both of them. And so that's tough for the Lakers too. What they're sending out is not just a neutral value. They're sending out guys that were starters for them. And either probably D'Lo or Rui is who we're going to see a trade based around. So that's a complicating factor as well. And I know that was a long-winded answer, but It's not easy to be Rob Pelinka right now. It's not easy, but the expectation is that he needs to get something done, and that's kind of the job. That's the way it goes.
Guest right now on Hoop Stock here is, of course, Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation. Trev, let's try to think positively here for a quick second. I know that's not common right now in Lakerland. I know a lot of the shows that you've been putting out. I'm sure everyone's been very critical. Best scenario for the Lakers that's left, you think, this offseason? Is there player, a move, a perfect fit? What would you say? Kind of what's in your mind of what you think would be realistic, and what you think would be the best case scenario?
So I think the one of my big keys for the offseason, in fact, my biggest key, and I try to recognize my own bias and stuff when I can. I lean towards the bigs in general. That's why I was so focused on the bigs in the draft. And can the Lakers get Zach Edey, or can the Lakers get Kel'el Ware, or whoever else is out there, Deron Holmes? But I do think the Lakers need a big. I think you need a true physical big to play next to Anthony Davis. If that means you're going and getting Brook Lopez, that's one thing. If you're trying to get Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz. But I'll tell you what my ideal situation is. It's that you find a trade that looks something like this. Let's say it's Brook Lopez that you're going to trade for. And he may not be the best target or whatever. I'm just using him for the example here. But he's making right around, off the top of my head, like $22-ish million. The best case for the Lakers, and this may sound lopsided on the surface, would be that you can package together, say, like Rui Hachimura, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Gabe Vincent in a deal. Now the Bucks can't take that back. That's too much salary going out, but I'm just saying they're getting a big.
Sure.
So essentially you want to see like a 3-for-1, where on the surface you look at it and you think, gosh, that's probably a little too much in terms of player value going out. But what you're really getting is, if you can clear enough salary where the Lakers are sitting right now, what you're really getting is you're getting at least one open roster spot and the ability to use your taxpayer mid-level exception. And there's a few guys out there right now that don't have deals yet. And I don't know if you can get them for this number or not. As time goes by, the more likely it becomes they're going to have to take a lesser salary. So if you could get a Gary Trent Jr., Tyus Jones, someone like that that's sitting out there on the market right now, that is probably a little more valuable. And then you look at a trade as, okay, we sent out Rui, we sent out Gabe in matching salary, we sent out Jalen Hood-Schifino, we had to add a pick. That's a lot of stuff, but we're not just getting back Brook Lopez or Jeremy Grant or Kyle Kuzma or whoever it is. Really, we're getting that player plus a Gary Trent Jr. plus whoever it is, Tyus Jones. That, I think, would be the ideal scenario, because then you're talking about two pieces coming in. You're talking about major change to the roster. You're sending out 3 players. You're bringing back 2. You're freeing up a roster spot. You're dipping yourself below the second tier apron, which right now they're just barely above it. I think that is an ideal type of trade for the Lakers to make, and maybe not that far outside of reality. Now, again, I picked a bad example because the Bucks aren't a team that can actually execute that, but maybe we can call it the Nets. Could you do something like that with the Nets? And I think that would be really interesting.
The player you get back in return, plus you freeing up a little cap, freeing up a roster spot to go out and get another player that is of need to the Lakers. No, that makes sense. And I think what you said too, I think as we sit here, it's July 5th. It maybe in today's offseason, things do work slower. Maybe teams are, I just saw something a little bit earlier today on Hoops Hype talking about Lakers and Spurs not very interested in Trae Young. However, if the price drops to these teams' likings or to LA's liking, maybe it changes. And I think, this is, if we want to use the analogy that Rob Pelinka was using at last trade deadline, he said, you can't buy a home that's not for sale. Or in this market, if that home's just been sitting on the market for sale and there aren't any offers, well, there's price cuts. And that hopefully, I don't know if you ever get those. I get those emails from Redfin, and it's like minus 40,000 for this home because it's been sitting for a month. And that's kind of what you're hoping for in the NBA is, at least if you're a Laker fan, is there going to be a price cut? did a lot of teams already make their moves? And now all of a sudden, if there were 5 or 6 teams interested, now it's just 2. And maybe then you could take advantage of a predicament or a situation. So that's a good way to put it. Just out of curiosity, because I know you mentioned the Bucks, and I know you recently interviewed Torian Prince,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a great interview. By the way, great interview with Austin Reeves as well.
Well, thank you.
But in your conversation with Torian Prince, it was clear Torian Prince wanted to come back to the Lakers. Why do you think he signed with the Bucks?
Well, I think Darvin Ham going there had something to do with it, of course. He took a veteran minimum, which was surprising. The Lakers could
Sure, I
give
agree
him
with you.
you could give him about 5.4 million, and given the going rate for wings in this league, I'm very surprised that he took a veteran minimum. But it tells you the market wasn't there. I think in terms of why did he not sign with the Lakers? They don't have a roster spot for him, and this is where when people are critical of Rob Pelinka, I've been cautioning them to be patient. Now, it's hard to say that at this point when we've seen him swing and miss at a few guys. But if we want to be critical of Rob, I think the thing that we could most criticize him for, it's missing on singles, like the little things that are now adding up. So player options for Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes, boy, those definitely hurt. That essentially prevented you from potentially bringing back Torian Prince. And again, cap wise, were they really in a spot where they could give him that 5.4 million? That may be another discussion. But why did Torian go to the Bucks when he wanted to stay with the Lakers? I don't think the Lakers had a spot for him. I think drafting Dalton Connect was part of that too. They're going to want to give him some minutes, and so there probably weren't many minutes available, especially when they've committed now to Max Christie as well for Torian in the Lakers rotation. But nonetheless, had they had a roster spot open for him, I do wonder if that would have changed things because, like I said, despite Darvin being gone, Torian sounded pretty determined to stay with the Lakers, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably not talked about enough, and such a good point that if the idea for a player like Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes to sign a minimum is they can get a little bit of exposure with the Lakers and then hopefully go get a bigger contract somewhere else. So the fact that both of those players had a player option to sign the league's minimum tells you that there's really no value for both of those players. And they have the luxury of saying, okay, well, we're going to come back to the Lakers for another year. I'm going to just, you look at guys like Malik Monk is too extreme of an example, but some players use the Lakers as a platform so that they can go get a contract somewhere else afterwards. Completely understand it happens. Lakers are a big brand. They get a lot of national TV games. But I'm with you that's a detail. I love that you got to hit singles too. This is not just about did I just hit a 3-run homer? Did I just hit a great? No, singles can manufacture runs. And I think what you just said, that the example of Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes is you have a runner at third with 1 out, you can't drive him in. That could be the difference of the game. And I think that it sounds like a small thing, but I think it could add up. Okay, Trev, I got 2 more things I want to do with you real quick, and I'm going to kind of get off the Lakers front here for a quick second. Well, sort of. I'm curious to get your thoughts. I'm just going to list a team in the Western Conference, and I think you and I are going to figure out if where everybody is right now, just the rosters that are in place right now for all these teams. Can something change? It can. It can change for the Lakers. It could change for other teams as well. But I just want you to tell me who has the better roster. Which team do you think is going to be better if both of these teams walk into next year? Which team in the West is going to be better? And I think this is going to help us just kind of rank where the Lakers are in the Western Conference. Okay. Okay. Let me start off with. I'm going to go right down the list. Who do you think has the better roster right now, is in a better position for next year? The Lakers or the Thunder?
Thunder.
Okay.
Thunder, no question.
By the way, the Caruso and Hartenstein, could you have asked? Unbelievable. I mean,
so
I know I'm only on one on my list, but that team is going to be so good next year. And I don't know if you felt the same way. If I said, hey, this team's got to add something, they got to add size. They got to add some strength. And to have Hartenstein and Alex Caruso on that squad, they didn't even give up any picks, right? Caruso, they didn't give up any picks. Hartenstein, they just got from the cap space that they had available. I don't even want to know where the heck the Thunder are going to be. Okay, so you had OKC better than the Lakers.
Mhm.
Lakers or Minnesota?
I think I got to go Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, with Towns, Naz Reid tends to blow up whenever he plays the Lakers. So I think we got to go Minnesota here. They're definitely a team on the rise, and yeah, gonna go with the Wolves.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And I think that I think they're on the up and up, right? That graph is pointing up for the Lakers. At best, you're just kind of staying where you are. So, okay, that's 2 right there. How about the Dallas Mavericks?
They just made that finals run. So I think I got to say Dallas. You look at they added Clay. They made moves at the trade deadline, getting PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. I think it's Dallas.
Okay, so that's 3. I'll keep going down the list. What do you think of Denver?
So Denver is. We look at the new collective bargaining agreement and what its goals were. I think Denver is a prime example of the bargaining agreement working in terms of what the NBA wants to see. Contavious Caldwell-Pope being lost now, in part due to the second-tier apron. The Clippers lost somebody too with Paul George. The Warriors lost with Klay Thompson, and that is kind of with the way the CBA is designed. So the big spending teams have to make some difficult decisions with their players. I think they take a step back, but they still have Jokic. They still have Jamal Murray. So I'm gonna go Denver. The Lakers still don't have a big to help deal with Jokic, so the matchup's still not great. I'm going Denver.
Denver, I'm with you, had a bad offseason just because of KCP is gone, but I'm with you. I'd still give them the edge. That I just have no reason yet until I see the Lakers obviously match up, see what those matchups look. Okay, so that's 4 teams right there that we feel like are better. And then now I'm just curious to get your thoughts based on some of these other teams in the Western Conference. Pelicans or the Lakers?
I'm going to go Lakers. I know the Pelicans made the move to get DeJounte Murray. Zion's got just as many health questions as LeBron and AD do. Brandon Ingram has health questions too. I know they're looking to move him, so who knows what they're going to look like by the time the season actually starts. But for right now, I'm going to give the Lakers the edge over the Pels.
Warriors or the Lakers?
Yeah, despite what Buddy Hield said, I'm going to go, or reportedly believed. I'm going to go with the Lakers over the Warriors. I just think the Warriors may have gotten better. I know they've got more depth now, but I think the Lakers can get the job done. Yeah.
Yeah, still don't have size. Phoenix or the Lakers? Maybe it's a tie.
It's a tough one there. Similar situation in a way. I mean, different build, but the Suns did lose Eric Gordon, so that hurts them. I'm going to go Lakers by a hair. I'm going to say Lakers over Phoenix. You still have the same fundamental problem with the Suns that they're just not good enough defensively. Now, maybe bringing in Coach Bud can change some things for them, but I'll go Lakers right now.
Sacramento or the Lakers?
Sacramento's another team that I think probably has a move coming. Maybe they get Brandon Ingram. We'll see. It was big for them to retain Malik Monk. I think the Lakers struggle with the Kings scoring, and so in head-to-head matchups, I think the Kings have the edge there for whatever reason. Sabonis is Anthony Davis's kryptonite, it appears. So I'm going to go Sacramento on that one.
Remember, if Monk doesn't get injured, that was really kind of the end of their season right there. I think Herter and Monk got injured. So you had 2 key pieces, and I'm with you that Lakers struggle against them. Okay, and now I'm kind of maybe I'm reaching here a little bit, but let's not forget Memphis had the 2nd best record in the NBA before last year. Last year was a complete, obviously a complete loss. Memphis or the Lakers?
Memphis was really good, but even when they were really good, the Lakers, they beat them in the playoffs. So I'm going to go Lakers over Memphis, but I do think Memphis is a very solid playoff team. And it's one of the reasons why the West is so difficult is now you have Memphis getting back into the mix.
I'm going to keep the Clippers out of it. I'm going to keep I'm going to keep Houston out of it, San Antonio out of it. But those are 3 teams that I think we agree with probably will be making some type of noise or just in the way. So just based off of that, it just gives you an idea. Just from the teams that you just said, that would put the Lakers as 6th in the Western Conference, that there's 5 other teams that are better than them. And that's us saying Phoenix coin flip, Pelicans maybe a coin flip. So it just kind of shows where the Lakers are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair way of putting it. You might even give the Lakers the edge on a couple of those because we're Laker fans.
Are you sure?
But
Purple and gold
but
lenses.
yeah, there's the purple and gold lens. Final one I have for you, and this is going to be on the NBA front as well. I think there's one piece left that is so critical in the entire NBA. I read this morning on Hoops Hype that the Miami Heat are among several teams interested in Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz. So here's the list now of all the teams that are associated to Lauri Markkanen. You got the San Antonio Spurs, the Sacramento Kings, the Miami Heat, and the Golden State Warriors. Three of those four teams that at least are listed right there are all in the Western Conference. So I think we're all just hoping, can he please go out somewhere to the East? If he ends up in Miami, he ends up in Miami. Of the teams I just mentioned, which team, if they got Lauri Markkanen, would you say, let's take Miami out of the mix just because they're in the East? Between the Spurs, the Golden State Warriors, and the Sacramento Kings, where do you least want to see him go if he goes to one of those teams?
Yeah, I don't want to see him go to any of those teams, but
I'm with you.
I'm going to say I think Sacramento, he could bump them up to being a true contender. I think Golden State, depending on what they give up, he could put them kind of into the mix there. But I'm going to say, simply for how crowded the room is, San Antonio, because I think if he goes to San Antonio becomes a playoff team too. That's the problem. You're going to have this year, Alan, maybe 12, 13 playoff caliber teams in the West. So you're talking about 2 or 3 teams that are playoff quality that don't even make the play in the West. It's crazy. It's crazy. So if there's anything we can do to hold off on the Wemby ascension for one more year, let's please do that.
Yeah, I like your reasoning for it. Right now, Utah and Portland are the only teams you're not expecting to make the playoffs. The last thing you want to do is take the best player from those 2 teams and put him on another contender, or put him on a team that's kind of on the fringe, trying to work their way up. All right, bud. That's great stuff. I appreciate you hanging out and kind of going through all these Laker questions. I know it doesn't seem like the best time right now, but I like what you said. Let's see what happens. There's still a little bit of time. If the Lakers let's see what happens to that housing market. If that house just sits on the market, usually sellers panic a little bit and they decide, well, let's cut the price because we just want to sell this damn home. Let's see if that happens with any of these other teams around the NBA. So, Trev, I appreciate the time, buddy. Thank you for hanging out on this Friday. I know you got a lot of content coming up as well, but I appreciate the time as always.
Hey, no problem, Alan. Happy to do it. Always enjoy talking Lakers basketball with you. All
right, that's Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation. Thank you for hanging out. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll get back with you guys soon as there's some information on the Lake Show. Thank you, Lake fans.